There's a lot to chew on from that press conference, including what he had to say about a timeline for Johnny Newton, the kicker tryouts that are ongoing, a lot on Jaden Daniels, who it seems like he's very impressed by the work he's put in to master this offense in the early going, what they expect to see from him over the next couple of days. And I want to get into something that came out of that Terry McLaurin question when he was talking about something McLaurin's working on this offseason. So let's do all that next. We'll go back through some of the specifics of what stood out from Dan Quinn today on Grant and Danny here on The Fan. All right, let's run through some of what Dan Quinn said with the media today out in Ashburn. I wrote a couple of things down here we can mow through. First, non-committal on a timeline for Johnny Newton as far as whether or not he'd be ready for training camp. Did say that he's on schedule right now. I viewed that as good news, to be honest. Not because there's a lot to take out as to when we'll see him back, but him being on schedule and kind of hitting his benchmarks here. The recovery in the past was about 3 months. If you extrapolate that out, it should get him back in time early into the season. Even if he were to miss the first month or so of the year, he was on PUP or something. Not the biggest deal in the world. Him being out there as a third star defensive tackle elevates the ceiling of this defense and gives them a chance to wreck some games up front and to really be a pass rushing group from the inside out. But because you've got Payne and Allen, if you have to go forward for a few weeks without him, it shouldn't really be a deal breaker for this defense. I view him as a bonus this year, and starting next year, when you either trade Allen or frankly Payne probably, or you let Allen walk, one or two of those guys are gone and you freed a bunch of money up. Now it's really important you get a lot out of him. This year, I think what you get is probably a plus.
Yeah, I view him as a luxury item, and I don't know that they could have afforded to do that, but they did. I mean, that's what it is.
He's a hell of a player next year. You'll be glad they did it.
Indeed. But at what cost? I think there's the debate there, but that's not important. He's here. I'm a bit more glass half empty when I hear that stuff. This sounds very Dachshund-y to me. So I hope he's fine. But I'd much rather hear he'll be back for training camp, or we think he'll be back for training camp. Maybe. I don't like that. Now, again, nothing's happened. He hasn't missed anything yet, other than these small bits of the offseason. And this is more of a long-term play, certainly. But I have heard those glowing reports before when it comes to people's feet and surgery, and we're not really sure what's going on there. So I will be a little bit more cautious before I start counting on all the things he's going to do.
Dan Quinn acknowledged that the kicking situation is far from determined. He said the workouts will continue. We told you earlier today, Jake Bates is coming in. They've got multiple UFL kickers who had great seasons still coming in to try out. My guess is they probably want to know by the end of the week who they're moving forward with. And I'd be surprised if they don't have two of these guys. Now, they've already signed one. If you sign a second one and then you bring both of them to camp for a competition, that's probably the best way to go. But I like that they've gone about this very quickly. There's a second league, there's a spring league, and it's not like, whereas at a lot of positions, the talent drop-off is huge. Kicking in a spring league versus kicking in the NFL is no real different. It's the same distance of crossbars and uprights, and the field goal distance is the same. The snap velocity might change a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. If you're a good kicker in the UFL, you can be a good kicker in the NFL, and they're tapping into that pipeline.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the nice element, honestly, of having spring football. And you mentioned it. It's like, I don't have a great analogy for it, but I don't know that you can figure out if someone who played left tackle pretty well in the UFL could do it, come this fall in the NFL, but you can figure out pretty quickly if a guy can kick the ball over 60 yards or not. You can see the touchback. You can see the ball go through the uprights, and it's a wider pool now. So that makes sense. I like that they're filling the void.
Quinn on Jaden Daniels today said that what they want to see him do first and foremost is execute his reps, master concepts. Sounds just kind of like coaching buzz phrases, but here's what I like is he talked about how impressed they've been with how quickly he's picked everything up. He says they want to see him get out of bad plays. Sounds to me like maybe, they will call a play for him against a really bad front or a bad look at some point and see if he can get out of the ones they want him to. Those are the types of things at this point of the offseason they are looking for. I like the way he talks about Jaden Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you guys are going to be really impressed with how hard he works. There was a quote just a few minutes ago, as a matter of fact, from Nick Allegretti, who they signed from the Chiefs to start at left guard. He's been around Mahomes. He was the starter in and played throughout the Super Bowl last season winning a ring. Allegretti said throughout his career, he's always prided himself on being a guy that gets there really early. It's what he likes to do. He likes that silence. He likes to be in the building before everybody else. And he said he hasn't beaten Jaden Daniels into the facility once so far. Like that kind of stuff, while cliche, is so important to me because being around teams, the quarterbacks who take everything seriously and are
Yep.
conscientious and put in that work and are there all day and are at the facility and live and breathe this thing, those are the ones that have a chance to maximize their skills. Doesn't mean everyone's going to be great, but Kirk Cousins as a fourth round pick has had a hell of a career, right? The ones that don't put in that work are the ones that pretty quickly you can tell they don't have it. This is not going to work. They aren't good enough. And Jaden Daniels is checking a very, very big box here.
Yeah, that's the controllable part. Your effort, your energy, your preparedness, whether somebody tips the pass to the line of scrimmage or your receiver drops it, that's out of your control. That's sports. That happens. You put yourself in the best possible chance to have success, and that's exactly what he's done. Again, I give him a lot of credit. He went from, talking about Daniels, went from super highly touted recruit to, are you really going to have a great college career at all? And took the challenge head on at LSU, outworked everybody. Right? It wasn't just a 1 week thing. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to lose some weight and I go jogging one time and then I'm right back on the couch eating pizza and donuts. No. This is a lifestyle choice. This is a how he's doing it from here on out, and that's continued from LSU here into the pros. Good sign.
And then what I love Dan Quinn talked about today was asked about Terry McLaurin, and he gave a specific example about what McLaurin does that he wants other players to pick up on. And he said that they gave everybody a list of things to improve on. They call it work-ons, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, me too.
That's actually something even in my own life I might think about. But you meet with every player individually, you give them a plan. Here are your work-ons. We want you to work on these couple things. Well, he said Terry's work on, it sounds like, is making more plays after the catch, being more explosive and getting away from tacklers and turning that 10-yard catch into 15, 18, 20, whatever it is. Well, he said, very obviously, when you watch the tape from practice, after catches, even when no one's around, he's working on a little move or trying to be twitchy or kind of pretending, miming what might happen in a game where someone's right there and you got to avoid a tackler or whatever. And he's doing that. And so his work on is this thing that he's taken to the practice field. And so he took that tape and showed it in a team meeting to everyone else on the team and said, all right, when we say Terry's the guy to follow, here's what we mean. Because his work on is after the catch. And look what he's doing in practice with nobody watching after the catch. So two things I loved about that. One, my sweet little Terry is the best. And two, the work on thing, I think that's really, really cool.
I would add, I rubber stamp that. I also add that that's correct, by the way, for McLaurin. Averaged 12 yards a catch last year, pretty much. Not terrible, but also not what you want out of your number one. That's something that's missing. Now, part of that is a lot of times he's flat-footed when the ball gets there, not much you can do, but being able to make a move and turn a little into medium or a medium into a lot, that's absolutely the difference.